All right, guys, let's talk about targeting when you're dealing with a local audience. So, this could include things like a restaurant, a gym, a doctor, a Kairos, a movie theater, any local business that is targeting within a localized parameter. So, lead gen is mostly made up of this kind of targeting, although you do have some lead gen clients, about 20%, which do work with broader audiences, and we'll cover that in the next video. So if you are working with sort of a lead gen client that does target sort of nationwide or across maybe even several countries, just skip to the second video. This is for those of you working with a smaller local audience. Now, this can be tricky sometimes because you are very much restricted to what's happening around you in terms of the population sizes, how many people are living in the city. So really, with lead gen, we try to keep things a little bit more simple, and this is definitely the case, if you compare it against sort of e-com where you would run lots of different tests like lookalikes and audiences, 1 million, 2 million plus. With local lead gen, oftentimes you'll end up with audience sizes of around 60,000 to about 300,000. That's normally what the audience sizes will come down to. So really, we try to keep things simple with our testing, and what I would recommend you start with initially is what we call blanket marketing. And this is basically, you may have heard of this referred to as also carpet bombing, but this is basically where you're just segmenting the age, the gender, if that's applicable, and any other demographic category. So for example, if we're targeting brides, we would simply just select people that just recently women that recently got engaged between the age of, say 25 to 65. And that would be our targeting. It would be pretty blanket. Now that it's probably going to be a fairly small audience as well. And what you have to bear in mind here is that depending which city you're targeting, so in New York City, that might work really well. But if your client is working, in a small town, you're going to have, maybe even under 1,000 people in that audience, and it's not going to feed out very well. So you want to have a minimum audience size of around 30,000 to get started with if you run your ad sets. So if that's the case, just go super blanket, females, put in an age, and that's it. And that should be a much bigger audience. Now, the other audience we want to test out against our blanket marketing is either interests or demographics or behavioral categories. So for example, if you're targeting brides, you could run another ad set testing, the interests of Bride and Groom magazine, or what's like a bride TV show, Say Yes to the Dress or something like that. So that could be an option as well. Now, if your client does have previous customer data, I would also highly recommend testing out a lookalike of their custom audience. So basically upload that customer list into Facebook and then create a lookalike, a 1% lookalike from that audience, and then segment it within the local area. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how far of a radius do I put out for my ads, right? How far of a radius? This is a study that was done by Bright Local, and it does a really good job. You can also find this in the, beneath this video. And it talks about some of the, how far in terms of minutes someone is willing to journey based on the type of business. So for example, a cake shop, about 23 minutes, the doctor, about 21 minutes. If you're looking at the pub, 14 minutes, yoga, 12, and then again, gym. So that gives you an idea that if you're working with a gym client, don't go too broad with your radius, because it's probably going to be shown to a lot of people that may opt in, but then they start to realize how far this gym is and they don't convert, and that's going to frustrate your client because they're going to start saying, well, the quality is low, or they're not coming in basically. So that's kind of an idea of how far to throw that web out. Now let's have a look at what to do when you're working with broader audiences, and I'm going to show you how to use audience insights here too.